Alright guys, welcome back to BSG Automotive. Today we are going to go on another mobile call. It's a beautiful December 1st and it's what, 40 some degrees and plentiful sunshine. We're going to go after a 2006 Ford Escape Hybrid that the guy bought from an auction, and he thinks it's been sitting for a while, otherwise it looks good. But because of that, he thinks the high voltage traction battery in the back is fully depleted, and therefore the vehicle will not start. So we're gonna go check it out. Usually you just put a jumper cables onto your 12 volt, get the 12 volt system up and running, jump pack, charger, whatever you have, new battery, and then you go in the back of the vehicle. There's a little button to press, and I'll show you that, and that will actually initiate charging from the 12 volt to the 330 volt traction battery through the DC to DC converter on there. He's tried all that and nothing, still no go. And there's the yellow wrench light or red triangle. Either way, not good. So I said we can come out and see what the codes are in the modules. There's a lot of different codes that can be set within that high voltage traction battery. There's a module in there, a cooling system, and it monitors the grounds, and there's a floating ground in there. There's a lot to these traction batteries, and they're self-contained, and they require that 12 volt system to be fully operational, the battery, the rest of the vehicle, in order to flip over the contactors for the high voltage stuff. So something's definitely up. We're gonna go in with the IDS and query the battery control module back there and see why it's not actually charging up like that. It shouldn't be a problem. If you have a good 12 volt source, it shouldn't be a problem. So I have chargers, I have jumper packs, jumper cables, I got everything. And then of course the IDS, so we're gonna see what the heck's going on. It'll be interesting, it'll be something different on the channel here. So alright guys, we're here working on this Escape, and sure enough the 12 volt system's okay, it's a little low, but the high voltage traction battery in the rear there is definitely dead. So we need to charge that up first before we'll even try to start the vehicle. These hybrids don't have regular starters running off the 12 volt system, it runs off the high voltage system. So every once in a while when I clear codes on here, it'll pop over and sound like the vehicle's just the engine's just coming apart in there because it's not spinning fast enough. So we're gonna go ahead and charge it. I'll show you how to do that here in a second. But besides that though, there's a lot of freaking codes in this darn thing. Mainly, most of them have to do with the voltage being too low or too high in the 12 volt system, and then you know, the high voltage battery being too low and disabled. So I'll show you a few codes on here. Now as far as codes here, you can see there's a bunch of different codes in here. What you want to concentrate on is the battery control module. That one's the general information DTC. That one is for the cooling fan circuit inside of the battery back there. It's got a module, cooling circuits. It's all built in, and those need to be replaced, but they will not cause it to be a no start. I've done that before, and you got to pull the whole traction battery out. The traction battery is too low, we know that already, and our 12 volt system's too low. Other modules are reporting it's too low. And then of course the PCM's setting basically the same information on there, and they're disabling the battery because it's too low, the hybrid battery. So we're gonna go ahead and charge it, and once the high voltage battery is charged, we can go ahead and try to start it again and get to learn the throttle body also. Okay, so the way to jump start these is to pull the key out of the ignition and put a jumper pack on the battery, the 12 volt battery, or a battery charger, and then you come down here on the driver's side here, and there's a little button over here. Hopefully you're able to see that. You press it, it'll light up solid, and then once it starts flashing rapidly, you can go ahead and try to start the vehicle again. That means the high voltage battery has had enough time to charge sufficiently so you can actually crank the engine. It takes a lot of power to do so. So once it starts flashing, we'll go ahead and start it up again. Try to start it. Okay, so the hybrid battery pack is charged enough. We're gonna go ahead and try to start it again. Make sure it's in park. Our usual noises from the ABS pump pumping up. And a success. Sounds good, idling good, and it'll learn the idle eventually. Over here you can see it's going to start charging it here in a second, and it'll run at this RPM until it sees the hybrid battery pack is sufficiently charged. At that point, after that, and once the vehicle is driven on a consistent basis, it'll maintain it automatically whether you're driving short distances or not. It'll just keep the engine at a certain RPM no matter what speed you're going. So let this run for a little bit and clean up, and then we're going to continue to pull codes on here and see if there's any on-demand codes, and then we're going to pull the jump pack off after it's ran for a while and shuts down automatically. We're going to pull a jump pack off, check charging voltage for the 12-volt system, and then of course see if the high voltage will start it without assistance. Okay, so the vehicle is satisfied with the high voltage battery. It's fully charged. Didn't take too long, maybe 5 minutes, and it shuts down. And the way you know it didn't shut down due to stalling from low fuel or the throttle body, if you look in the cluster here in the RPMs, okay, you can see down there it shows it's in EV mode. So what we're going to do now, just to give this guy a little bit more value, because there's a lot of updates, is check for updates to the PCM and the battery control module in the back so it's more reliable for him. Okay, so to program it, wants us to disconnect the high voltage battery pack, service disconnect. So we'll go ahead and do that. Right, back in here, here's the battery pack itself right here, and here's the disconnect. So you can go ahead and put it to unlock or shipping. So it wants us to pull it out, so it's a real pain. You put the unlock and you pull it out like that, and that's the high voltage contacts in there. And there's a fuse in there too, a resistor right there, see it? So we'll take that out. Come back over here, confirm, do it. And it'll put the latest software into there. This is the way to do it. Whenever you're messing around any kind of hybrids, newer or these first generation ones, they're always going to have tons of updates to them. You want to do the latest updates. And it controls the cooling circuits better, and of course it controls the charging of the high voltage battery much better as better algorithms come out. So it's always good to do those. And we'll do the PCM also, just to match in software if it doesn't prompt me to do it automatically, because there's also a lot of software improvements in the PCM as far as the engine side that charges the high voltage side, so it kind of goes hand in hand. It doesn't take too long, so you might as well do it. Turn it back on, turn it back off. Alright, everything is loaded and checked. Put the disconnect back in. Okay, it's happy. Now before going into the PCM, if there even is an update, I'll make sure it starts again. I'll let it run. You can go ahead and check it while it's running for calibration updates anyways. Tool's not updated. Yes, it has been. And there's a later update for the PCM. this right here, it's actually contacting the Ford server, getting a calibration file. It's nice to have a wireless internet like this off the iPhone. No, I don't. Now with the high voltage battery charged and connected in back there now, all back together, it'll actually keep a 13 or 14 volt charge throughout the 12 volt system on here. So there's no need for battery packs to charge or to program the PCM. It'll have sufficient voltage no matter what. All right. It's allowing the PCM to power down. Turn it off. Okay, for the heck of it, I'm going to clear all codes in case it didn't clear all of them. Alright. And this will clear all the code to every module, so if there's a repeat problem or a new problem, it'll be the only DTCs that are in here. After that, we can let this thing run and charge until it's content. Okay. Turn the key off. Disconnect the scan tool. And we'll let it run. Let it charge the system a little bit until it goes into EV mode. Okay, so another successful mobile call, and this one being a hybrid, I couldn't be happier with the outcome. I was able to fix it there on the spot and get up and running for them and reliable once again and figure the problem out without having to drag it back to the shop or tell them I couldn't do it on the road. So that's good. And what you have to realize is that a lot of shops out there will not touch a hybrid vehicle no matter how minor the concern may be. And also there's a lot of Ford dealerships out there that don't have qualified hybrid personnel either, and they'll either won't be able to diagnose it, the guy won't be there, they won't accept it in, or it's possible for them to misdiagnose it and kind of throw parts at it. With hybrids, yeah, it gets expensive real quick. Now me personally, I've had only web-based training from Ford on their hybrids. I've had a lot of hands-on experience over the years, and I had some training, generalized training at UTI when I first got into the biz. So I understand them, and they're pretty reliable for the most part. Even going back to like this one, the first generation hybrids from Ford. But you just need to understand how the system works before you start even touching them. On a hybrid, there's no starter. It's all built into the transmission housing and the stator in there. It'll actually spin it a couple hundred RPM, 300, 400 RPM, and it'll kick it over silently. There's no starter and ring gear to start the vehicle, so it's very quick and it's silent, and it requires the high voltage battery in the back to be fully functional. Now, in order for that battery pack to be fully functional and turn on and allow the juice to flow to that stator inside the transmission to start the vehicle, the 12 volt battery and a 12 volt system up in the front there has to be fully functional also. So there's contactors back there for the high voltage lines, and they require the 12 volts to flip them over. So you got to really understand the system and the fact that it's always monitoring the hybrid battery pack back there. There's modules inside their cooling systems, floating grounds, and all of that all built right into the hybrid battery pack. And it's always watching it for any kind of fault. So anything that it finds, it will actually disable the high voltage battery pack back there, and the vehicle will not start.